Is everybody ready? All right. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Manley. I'm the police chief here in Austin. And as you all are aware, and the reason that you're here today is to talk about an incident that occurred back on February 18th. On February 18th, Assistant Chief McElvain with the Austin Police Department was stopped for speeding. He was doing 92 miles an hour in a 65 mile an hour zone in the 9900 block of Mopac Boulevard. Chief McElvain was off duty at this time, driving his city vehicle out of town. And again, being in an on-call capacity, he was driving his city vehicle. He was stopped by a Austin police officer for speeding. And as you all know, and as the video shows, that officer, upon stopping him, issued him a warning and allowed him to go. And that has come to our attention last week. And as a result of the actions that occurred, I met with the officer who stopped Chief McElvain, and in a conversation I had with him about the incident, I explained to him that although I understood how uncomfortable that may be, stopping an assistant chief in that way, I asked him whether or not he would have handled that the same way if it were a citizen or somebody else. Would they have received a warning? And the officer indicated that they would not have, so I let him know that he would need to issue a ticket to Chief McElvain because, again, we have to hold ourselves to the same standard as we would anybody else in this community. Given the fact that this occurred with a City of Austin vehicle, I also initiated an internal affairs investigation into the matter. The internal affairs investigation was conducted under APD policy and protocol. I consulted with the police monitor himself, discussed this incident, and that investigation is now closed. As you all know, we're only allowed to discuss discipline that rises to the level of a suspension or above. In this case, there was no suspension. However, the case was handled in accordance with our policy and with the oversight of the police monitor. So that investigation is now closed. Chief McElvain did receive a speeding citation for his actions on that day. I also took this as an opportunity to send a message out to the entire department, explaining to them the incident that occurred, the actions that I've taken, and the importance that we as a department hold ourselves accountable to the same level that we're holding the citizens of Austin accountable and those that we work with. And that although police officers have discretion, and we should have discretion, that we have to ensure that we're using that discretion in a reasonable and consistent manner, regardless of a person's individual characteristics or their occupation. So I think this was an opportunity to serve as a learning moment for this department of the importance of holding ourselves accountable to the same level that we do the community, whether that be criminal law or traffic law, that this was important, that this is an incident that should not have occurred. I believe that we have handled it now with the issuance of the citation and the investigation that was concluded subsequently. And again, I think that now I'm looking at this as an opportunity to work with the men and women of the Austin Police Department to explain the importance of treating our community with dignity and respect, but also treating each other and holding each other to the same level of accountability that we do members of the community. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Is it okay to take, is there a department policy to take the car outside of the jurisdiction on the way to Waco? It said there in the video.
Sure. So officers have take-home vehicles because they are in an on-call capacity. I expect my chiefs to be able to respond when needed. I think you and the media of all folks know how frequently you see us at the scenes of incidents that occur late at night, over the weekends, on holidays. There is an expectation when you're part of the command and executive ranks in this department that you will be available. So although I wouldn't have officers traveling 5 hours away, I don't think traveling to Waco or to San Antonio in a city car is unreasonable, because if I needed Chief McElvain back in the city, I would have called him and he would have responded.
And when did you find out about this?
I was contacted last week by a reporter who inquired about whether or not this had occurred.
How much was the speeding ticket that he later received?
The speeding ticket was for 15 miles over the speed limit, I believe. I don't know what the actual fine is for that.
Chief, if this came to light to you because of the media, I mean, how can the public know that this isn't happening more often? How can you not know that this is happening more often?
I think if this were a more prevalent issue, if this warrants something to what I consider, a very infrequent activity, I think that we would be seeing a lot more complaints. Our cars are normally pretty recognizable as police cars, and I think that we would have citizens that would be calling in and reporting this if this were something they were seeing on a frequent basis. I do believe that this was an isolated incident.
We live in a time where there's a culture to hold police accountable. Why was it important for you to come out today and talk about this?
I think that this community would look at this incident, and I think that they would believe that had it been them that were stopped, they would not have been treated in the manner in which our officer was treated, with how Chief McElvain was treated. And so I think it's important that the community knows that my expectation and the way I will carry myself as the chief is that I will hold our officers accountable and appropriate. And the appropriate activity here, based on the officer who stopped him saying that had it been somebody else, he would have issued a ticket, was that ticket should have been issued, and that's why I instructed him to issue that ticket.
Is there any reprimand for that officer?
No, I actually met with that officer, and I've explained to him that although I understand how difficult that can be, stopping someone who is part of the executive team of the organization in which you work, the importance of understanding the perceptions of the community, but also, more importantly, of holding ourselves accountable to the same standards that we hold others in Austin accountable to on a daily basis. Again, I'm not looking to punish or discipline this officer, but instead I'm looking to use this as a learning moment for the entire organization of what message are we sending to our community? How are we going to continue to build trust and faith within our community if we're not holding ourselves to the same standard as we do members of the community? So the approach I'm taking is with this officer in particular, but with officers across the department, with the message that I sent out, is that we have to be consistent and reasonable in our actions, regardless of anyone's personal characteristics or especially occupation.
Are you considering any policy change or additional training?
I don't think there's a policy change that's necessary. I think our policy is very appropriate. I think we have a policy on take-home vehicles that authorizes who can use them and on what circumstances. Policy makes it clear that we expect you to comply with all laws, to include traffic laws. What we had here was we had an incident where we had a person did not comply with traffic law, and we're now holding him accountable.
Any
Last
possibility
question.
of further action against the assistant chief once the investigation is over?
No, the investigation has concluded, and as I stated, he was issued a citation, and I did coordinate my investigation with the police monitor, and we can't give the results of that if it does not rise to the level of a suspension, and in this case there was no suspension warranted.
Did you mention the reason why he was speeding again?
I believe Chief McElvain himself said he just wasn't aware how fast he was going. Thank you all very much.